If your horror artwork needs gore to feel frightening, the concept probably isn't strong enough. And these 5 posters for the film Evil Dead Burn prove that fear can come from something much more powerful, which is a clear idea. They were created by 5 of my fellow Poster Posse artists to promote the film across social media, and none of them approaches the brief in the same way. One uses symbolism, one traps us inside a scene, one turns family into an occult diagram, while the other builds the entire poster around a single object, but one reduces the horror to just raw silhouettes, fire, and watching eyes. So I want to break down what makes each piece work, but more importantly, how artists can learn from them about composition, visual hierarchy, and creating an image that stops someone from scrolling, because that was the real challenge here. These were not just illustrations made to look good at full size, they needed to communicate quickly on social media. The concept had to survive being cropped, reduced, and seen for just barely a second, and that is where strong visual direction becomes more valuable than simply adding more detail. So let's start with Chris Garofalo's poster. This one works because the entire composition is built around transformation. At first you see a skull, then you begin to realize how many different parts of the story have been folded into that shape. The house sits inside the upper part of the skull, the burning figures and flames form the lower structure around it, creates another strong triangular shape beneath everything, and the hands at the top feel as though they're physically pulling the image open and revealing what's hidden inside. And that is a brilliant horror device. The image isn't simply showing us a haunted house, it is telling us the house itself contains something dead, corrupted, and buried underneath the surface. And that connects perfectly with the line, "Every family has its demons." The family home should represent security and comfort, but here it becomes part of the skull. And that contradiction is what makes the concept memorable in my opinion. Visually, the limited color palette also does a huge amount of work here, where black just dominates the image. The cream creates the bones from the exposed space, and the yellow pulls attention towards the house. Then the orangey red moves your eyes down through the skull and into the fire. There is a very deliberate hierarchy here. You have the house and the skull and the flames and the title. You understand the overall idea that's being presented immediately, but there is still enough detail to reward a closer look. And that is exactly what strong social artwork needs. An instant read followed by a secondary discovery. Now compare that approach with Alexei Ricko's poster. This one does not simply create fear through one symbolic transformation. It puts us directly in the room, within the scene. We're sitting at the dining table. We can see the hands at the bottom of the image that represent us. There are places set around us, but the room still feels abandoned. A chair has fallen over, a knife and other cutlery are on the table. Family photographs line the wall, and there's a weapon hanging off by the side. And at the far end, a dark figure sits in front of the fire. The image works through anticipation. Nothing needs to attack us. Nothing needs to leap towards the camera. The fear comes from understanding that we are already in the wrong place. The first person perspective makes the viewer part of the scene rather than someone safely looking into it. That is an important distinction. We're not observing a table, we've been given a seat at that table. The composition then uses the table as a directional device. Its edges pull our eye towards the figure in the center. The candle reinforces that central line. The fireplace frames the silhouette. Even the empty plates and scattered objects make the viewer search the room for more information about what's going on. It creates the question, what happened here and why are we sitting at this table? That unanswered question does more than a graphic image of violence ever would. The red and black palette makes the room feel hot and oppressive and dangerous, while the cooler tabletop gives the foreground enough separation for the hands and plates and title to remain readable. It is a contained piece of visual storytelling. It's one room, one perspective, and one threat. Then we have Sam Dunn's poster. This one turns the film's central family theme into an occult family tree. The composition is extremely symmetrical, with 4 framed eyes sitting around the title, and with a 5th frame containing the raised hand. The branches kind of spread outwards from the center, then become roots, leading directly down into the burning house, with the line saying, family is the root of all evil. And that isn't just copy placed onto the artwork. The entire image has been designed to visualize that sentence. The family is literally represented through roots. The house sits at the base of those roots, and the eye suggests generations of watching, judging, or remaining trapped within the family structure. And the raised hand creates this disturbing kind of central interruption, almost like someone is trying to reach out from inside of it. And this is what strong conceptual poster design looks like. The image has one central metaphor, and every major element supports that. Nothing feels added simply because the space needed filling. The symmetry gives the design the visual authority of a family crest, religious diagram, or occult symbolism. But the organic branches stop that symmetry from feeling calm. They spread through the image like veins or cracks. The cream border and distressed texture also make it feel like an old object, something that's been discovered rather than something that's been newly designed. And that texture matters because polished digital artwork would weaken the unease in this piece. The imperfections make it feel contaminated. The next piece by Berkey Dalla uses far fewer elements, and that restraint is exactly why it works. The entire poster is built around one hand holding this glass candle. Inside that glass is the house with bones and skulls buried beneath it, a flame burning above it. Then the cracks are running up the arm, making it feel as though whatever is burning inside the glass is beginning to spread inside the person holding it. There is a lot of negative space here, but that empty space is not wasted. It isolates the object and makes it impossible to ignore. The hand becomes the silhouette, and the glass becomes the story. The flame becomes the focal point. And that is incredibly useful for social media because the image still reads when it's reduced. You don't need to inspect 20 characters or decode a complicated scene. You see the hand, the fire, and the house immediately. Then the closer details reveal what is buried beneath. The glass almost feels like an offering, a relic, or a container holding the family's history. The house isn't just burning somewhere in the distance. It's been captured, held, and carried. That makes the horror kind of feel personal, and the warm light against the near black background gives the image a cinematic quality without sacrificing the simplicity of the concept. And finally, there is Ashra Omar's poster, and I feel this one is one of the most immediate and aggressive from this set because the burning house sits at the bottom of the composition while figures surround it from above. Their faces are almost completely swallowed by black. What remains visible are only their eyes. And that single decision transforms them from being individual people to a collective threat. You don't need to know exactly who they are. You only need to understand that they're watching and they're a threat. And the use of heavy red makes the whole image feel hostile before you have even processed the subject. Then the orange fire kind of creates this vertical path through the center, drawing the eye from the house up into the surrounding figures. And the dog in the middle almost introduces another distorted silhouette, breaking up the human shapes and making the group feel even less predictable in a way. This artwork understands the power of reduction. Faces become shadows, eyes become these red marks, where fire becomes this graphic shape, and the house becomes the final point of focus. It feels primal, almost like a warning image of a screen print from a nightmare. And again, that makes it extremely effective for social media. There is no fragile subtlety that disappears when the poster is seen on a phone. The contrast is brutal, the silhouettes are clear, and the palette is unforgettable. So although these 5 artists are promoting the same film, they're not repeating the same solution. Chris Garofalo turns the family home into a skull. Alexei Rico puts the viewer at the table. Sam Dunn builds an occult family tree. Berkey Dalla traps the house inside of a burning object. Ashraf Omar surrounds it with a wall of watching figures, and that is the most valuable lesson in the entire project. A brief doesn't need one correct answer, it needs a clear answer. Each artist has chosen one emotional route into the film and committed to it. They're not trying to explain every character, every scene, or every plot point. They're selling a feeling. You have corruption, anticipation, inheritance, containment, and a collective threat. That is why the work feels cohesive as a campaign without every poster looking the same. The shared reds, blacks, flames, houses, and family themes connect the set, but the individual concepts gives each image its own identity, and that is what artists should take from this. Before you add detail, decide what the image is actually about that you're creating. Not the subject, not the idea, but what should someone understand in the first second? What should they discover in the next 5? And what single visual decision can carry the whole piece? Because a strong image doesn't need to explain everything. It needs to make one idea impossible to miss. Now, if you enjoy these professional breakdowns of posters, comic art, and entertainment design, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep exploring why strong artwork works, not just whether it looks good, but how the composition, concept, and visual hierarchy create that impact. But let me know in the comments which of these approaches connected with you the most. The skull, the dinner table, the family tree, the burning glass, or the surrounding figures. And if you are an artist trying to build a more professional career around your work, I cover pricing, positioning, portfolios, clients, and creative income in my book, The Profitable Artist. The link is in the description below, and as always, thank you for watching.